How you doing, everyone? Welcome back. This is part 5 of 10. Um, we're going through how the Trump regime has been violating the Bill of Rights, or how they may violate the Bill of Rights in the future. So far, we have found violations of the First Amendment, potential violations of the Second and Third, actually likely violations of the Second. Nobody really understands the Third, so that one may or may not happen. We have found violations of the Fourth Amendment. Now we are in part 5, the Fifth Amendment. Now, the Fifth Amendment, everybody knows you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to say anything. I take the Fifth. I'm not saying anything. Right? That's part of it. There's a lot more to the Fifth Amendment than that, though. But that's the part that everybody knows. All right? No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime. So basically, something you could be put to death for, or some other very serious crime, unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So a grand jury has to find that there is enough evidence to prosecute. All right, not enough to convict, but enough to prosecute. It's like, there's a chance you did it, so we're gonna say go ahead and have the trial. Right? Except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Okay, so that is a carve-out, right? If you are in military service and we're at war or otherwise in public danger, you're kind of exempt from these rights. Okay, you can be held accountable for without the grand jury. Okay, so I don't necessarily agree with the founders on that, but I get it. Where did I leave off? Oh yeah. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, right? The double jeopardy clause, right? So basically, if you are accused of, let's just call it an assault, right? Say you get drunk tonight, you get in a fight, you punch somebody in the face outside of the bar, right? Drunk and disorderly, assault and battery, right? You get acquitted for that. They cannot bring that same case against you. Now, if you do the same thing next weekend, that's a whole different case, and they can charge you for that, but they cannot recharge that first one. Okay? So it's not that, I was found not guilty of this crime. No, you're found not guilty of that incident. Okay? Okay. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. You see witnesses, you see the accused often not take the stand in criminal cases. Probably more often than not. I don't know the actual breakdown on that. But I know that it's often recommended that the defendant not take the stand. So again, that's the whole, hey, you know what? I'm not talking to you. I am not implicating myself, right? I am not giving you anything that you can use against me. I am remaining silent. nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Meaning you can't just be executed, thrown in jail, have your money or other property taken away from you just because you've been accused. No, you need to go through due process. The law must apply. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So now we're talking about eminent domain, right? So the government can't just want your house just to put a freeway through. They can't just take your house. They have to pay you for it, right? So can they take it? Yes, but they have to compensate you for it. But again, we're talking about violations of constitutional rights by the Trump regime. Did you hear anything in there that they might be violating? Because I sure did. Deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. All those guys down in El Salvador, right? First of all, warrantless arrests, which was covered in the Fourth Amendment. We covered that in the previous video. And now they don't get due process of law. It's like, you know what? Nope, we're not sending you to court. We're sending you to El Salvador. And then the excuse that we're going to use is, well, we don't have any jurisdiction over El Salvador. And then El Salvador is going to use the excuse, well, we don't have the authority to send these people back to the United States. So the United States is saying that we don't have the authority to get them from El Salvador, and El Salvador is saying we don't have the authority to send them to the United States. Somebody's lying, aren't they? So, yeah. And don't get it twisted. The double jeopardy clause, they're coming for that too. They are coming for that. If they think you are falsely acquitted, they're going to try you until they get the conviction they want. Just wait. Are they doing that yet? No. No, but in time, it'll happen. You just wait. That is, if we don't stop them now, right? And that's the whole point of this series. We have to stand up. It's not doom and gloom. It's stand up and oppose this. So, denying people their legal rights. People are being denied of their liberty without due process. It's just a matter of time before, it's not just liberty or property. It'll be lives taken without due process. Which we've already seen that happen. I mean, look at the most recent high-profile example was George Floyd. But there have been plenty of other examples. Cops will take somebody out without due process. Usually someone with a lot more melanin than I have. So, just be on your toes, know your rights, protect your rights. Also, if you know your rights, especially if you have a complexion similar to mine, Know your rights, because if you know your rights, then you also know that they apply to that guy over there, right? You know, the one that doesn't look like you, the one that doesn't look like me, the guy who might have a name that's not so common around these parts, right? Someone who might have a name like Diaz or Hidalgo or Garcia, Sanchez, Hernandez. Yeah. Guardado. Know your rights. Because if you know your rights, then you know their rights. Because theirs are the same as yours. And if you know your rights and their rights, then you can fight for everybody's rights. And that's what we need to do. We need to fight for everybody's rights. Stand up. Be loud and be proud. Don't take this without a fight. Do not let them violate your rights or anyone else's. They can't beat us all. They can't. So, if you find yourself in this situation, right, where they're coming for you, don't say anything, because you don't have to. Get a lawyer, because that's your right. And demand due process. I'll see you next time.